Once, in a kingdom blanketed by cold, silent forests and veiled in endless mist, there lived a miller, known as much for his arrogance as for his poverty. He spent his days grumbling about his misfortunes, though most were of his own making. One fateful day, desperate for wealth and the king's favor, the miller uttered a reckless lie. He boasted to a passing courtier that his daughter could spin straw into gold. The words tumbled from his lips without thought, but the courtier, intrigued, rushed to tell the king. The greedy ruler, always hungry for more wealth, summoned the miller's daughter to the castle. Terrified, the girl was brought before the king, whose eyes gleamed with avarice. Without a word, she was led to a tall, dark tower in the heart of the castle. The room was cold and shadowed, filled with bales of straw and a single spinning wheel. The king, towering over her, delivered his ultimatum. If she could not spin the straw into gold by morning, she would die. The door slammed shut behind her, and her heart raced with panic. Alone in the dimly lit tower, surrounded by piles of straw that mocked her, she sobbed, her tears falling onto the cold stone floor. The shadows in the room seemed to shift and murmur, as if they were whispering her doom. The hours stretched on, and just when despair seemed unbearable, a strange sound interrupted the silence. A series of small, quick footsteps echoing against the stone. From the shadows stepped a creature unlike any she had ever seen. He was small, hunched, and his eyes glowed like embers, casting a faint light in the gloom. His twisted grin revealed sharp, yellow teeth, and his presence filled the room with an eerie chill. "I can spin this straw into gold," he rasped, his voice dry and brittle like leaves in autumn. "But for a price." Desperate and not thinking of the future, the girl agreed without hesitation, offering him the necklace her mother had given her. The creature's bony fingers snatched the necklace from her hand, and without another word, he set to work. He whirled the spinning wheel with impossible speed, and as the hours passed, the straw transformed into shimmering gold. By dawn, the room was ablaze with the glow of wealth beyond imagination. When the king returned, his eyes widened with greed. But his hunger for gold was insatiable, and instead of releasing the girl, he demanded more. Night after night, she was locked in the tower, forced to face the same impossible task. Each time the creature appeared, his grin growing wider, his demands more sinister. First, it was her necklace, then her ring, and finally, when she had nothing left to offer, he asked for something more precious than any jewel: her firstborn child. The girl's heart froze with terror, but faced with death, she agreed, though she could barely speak the words. The straw was spun into gold one last time, and the king, blind with greed, married her, making her his queen. The kingdom rejoiced, for its coffers overflowed, and the young queen's beauty shone like the gold she had supposedly spun. Yet beneath her royal garments, her heart was heavy with dread. Time passed, and though she wore the crown, the queen found no joy. Her happiness was a fleeting thing, shadowed by the promise she had made. When her first child was born, a beautiful baby girl with bright eyes and golden hair, the queen's love for her child was fierce. But so was her fear. She convinced herself that the creature would not return, that somehow the deal had been forgotten. But one stormy night, when the winds howled and thunder cracked through the skies, her worst fears came true. The creature appeared again, his twisted form lurking in the shadows of the nursery. His laughter sent a chill through her bones as he stepped forward, his bony fingers reaching for the cradle. "I've come for what is mine," he hissed, his grin wider than ever. The queen fell to her knees, pleading with him, offering him all the riches of the kingdom, anything but a child. His eyes gleamed with dark delight, but instead of taking the baby, he offered her a grim bargain. "If you can guess my name within 3 days, I will let you keep your child," he whispered, his voice dripping with malice. Terrified but determined, the queen sent messengers and spies throughout the kingdom, gathering every name ever spoken. Each day, she called out names to the creature, names both common and strange, but each time he shook his head with that same wicked grin. As the final day dawned, her desperation grew. The creature seemed more menacing, his laughter crueler with each failed guess. Just as the sun began to set, a spy returned with unexpected news. Deep within the forest, hidden among ancient trees, he had seen the creature dancing around a fire, singing his name with glee, Rumpelstiltskin. He had chanted over and over, believing no one could hear him. That night, as the creature came to claim the child, the queen stood tall, her voice steady as she spoke his name. Rumpelstiltskin. The creature's face contorted with rage. His screech echoed through the castle as he stomped his foot so hard it sank into the floor. In a final furious act, he tore himself in two, vanishing into the darkness, leaving nothing but silence behind. The queen thought it was over, that her nightmare had ended. But deep in her heart, she could not shake the feeling that the creature's curse had not truly been broken. Time passed, and her daughter grew into a beautiful young woman, full of life. Yet, on her 16th birthday, the skies darkened as never before. The wind howled through the kingdom, carrying with it a haunting melody. The queen's heart raced as she ran to her daughter's chamber, only to find her standing at the window, her face pale, her eyes distant. "I know his name, Mother," the girl whispered, her voice hollow, as if it belonged to someone else. "I know what he wants." Before the queen could react, her daughter collapsed, her body convulsing violently. Bones snapped, twisting into unnatural angles, and before her eyes, the girl's form contorted into something grotesque. When the transformation was complete, the queen's daughter was no more. In her place stood the twisted figure of Rumpelstiltskin, grinning with malevolent delight. He had never wanted the child's body. He had sought her soul, her essence, to claim it for himself. The queen had saved her child's life only to lose her in the most terrible way. As the creature, now wearing her daughter's face, laughed coldly, the queen realized the truth. Rumpelstiltskin had never truly left. Years passed, and the kingdom withered under a veil of decay. Crops failed, livestock died, and whispers of dark magic spread like wildfire. The queen, now a hollow shell, lived with the constant presence of the creature in her daughter's form. But deep within her, a darker secret festered, one that even Rumpelstiltskin did not know. The queen had always known her daughter would be taken. Long before the creature had appeared, she had sought out forbidden magic, visiting a witch deep in the forest. The witch had warned her of the consequences. If the queen offered her child to the shadows, the deal could never be undone. But there was a darker path, one that required a terrible sacrifice. Determined to find a way out, the queen had bound her soul to her daughter's. As long as her daughter lived, the queen's humanity would slowly slip away. and with it, her very soul. Over the years, the queen's skin grew pale, her eyes hollow, her voice an echo of its former warmth. She was becoming something else, something twisted and dark, like Rumpelstiltskin himself. One stormy night, the queen stood before the mirror, staring at her reflection. The creature, still wearing her daughter's face, grinned back at her. But this time, the queen did not feel sorrow. She felt only a deep, dark understanding. "You see, Rumpelstiltskin," she whispered, her voice cold, "the bargain was never just yours to take. You claimed my daughter's soul, but I took something far more precious. I am becoming what you are. We are bound together now, in a deal darker than you ever imagined." For the first time, a flicker of fear crossed the creature's face. The queen smiled, her twisted grin matching his. "Soon, I will take more than just your power. I will take your place." And so, they stood, mirror images of one another. Two beings who had lost their souls to darkness, bound forever by a curse that neither could escape. Thank you for joining us in the world of Twilight Fables. If you enjoyed this tale and want to hear more stories like this, please subscribe and hit the notification bell for more.